When you are able to bring the unconscious into consciousness, you are able to have the power to create your life. Carl Jung said, until you bring the unconscious into consciousness, it will control your life and you will call it fate. Now, we often think that this happens on a macro scale, but we often neglect the micro ways in which our unconscious shows up literally in every second of our lives. Hello, welcome to YAROK Academy of Healing, Expanding, Spiritually Transforming, and Mastering Energetics. I am your host, YAROK, leadership mentor, nervous system genius, clinically trained therapist, spiritual teacher, and all around energetic sorceress. And this is my cat, Aslan, who just wants to be a part of all of the healing videos. So, I am a master of helping you bring the unconscious forward because you can't see the unconscious. You can't see it. Now, I can give you some tips on how to get in touch with it, but the reality is you can't see it. Now, life will mirror it to you. Okay, let's start there. Life will mirror what is actually happening internally, externally. And your perception of what's happening will determine the meaning that that situation has. So let's say something happens that you don't like. Like I just recently had a thing with someone who I'm very close with, and we had to tend to what was happening. We both could have made it a bad thing, but we both came at it with openness and curiosity and willingness and wanting to create more connection rather than just be defensive in being right. And because we were able to do that, we were able to look at the lessons, the gold that was within that for us. Now, that is the way you want to be perceiving a situation where you're having discord in an important relationship in your life. What happens so often is we get activated, our inner child gets activated, we feel defensive, and then we're just combative with each other, right? And then there's no resolution. Or maybe it's with someone who you're like, I'm just going to cut them out, or I'm just going to not talk to them anymore, or they're this, that, or the other. Like we go to these places because it feels safer than actually having our inner child attuned to, having the personal power and the nervous system safety, having a nervous system that feels like it's dripping in gold, to be able to come into connection with someone and really look at each other's both sides of the both perspectives. Now, why am I talking about this in terms of the unconscious? Because these are the things that happen to help you bring your unconscious into consciousness. In this conversation, I was able to see where the situation that frustrated her, where I was actually frustrated and there was some proving energy, and I actually wasn't in my full power because I was triggered, but I didn't realize that in the moment. And so by she and I having this thing, it allowed me to go, oh, there was some unconscious energy in there. Let me look at what this unconscious energy is. Let me get curious about it. What was happening for me there? What is the old story that I carry around that? And where was that projecting out into the 3D reality? And how is that not in alignment with who I want to be in the world? And so, do you see there how I had a bunch of unconscious energy? It then created a rupture with someone I care for. And then she had some unconscious energy. And then our unconscious energy swirled together. And then we were in this place where it was like, well, here's how I feel. And she's like, here's how I feel. And there was initially a little bit of combating, right? And then we softened and we got to a place of understanding where we were both able to see where some of each of our unconscious energy was at play. And then we get to look at that and then we get to integrate the lessons. And I cannot speak for her, but I can speak for myself and say the lessons have been immense for me. And I'm actually really excited and grateful that this happened because I'm able to really look at that unconscious energy, bring it into consciousness, and tend to it. And we are so used to thinking we know a thing, right? Like maybe you've heard this quote a million times from Carl Jung. Maybe you think you know your subconscious beliefs or your unconscious beliefs, or you are like, oh, I do this like rewiring or this repatterning, blah, blah, blah. But then, excuse me, things happen in your life and you're like, why is this happening to me? It's not happening to you. It's happening for you so that you can bring your unconscious into the consciousness. Last night with a client, right before we ended our Voxer day, she was like really irritable and she was blaming it on work. And I said, Actually, do you think your irritability might be because you just started dating again and you're feeling really, you're having some feelings about the fact that you're not connecting with any men who feel exciting for you on the Hinge app? And she came back in Voxer, which is a voice noting app if you don't know, and she said, "Funny you should say that. That's exactly what I was thinking about while I was doing the dishes." Now, here's the thing. About 6 months ago, she never would have had that ability to bring that unconscious energy into the consciousness. 6 months ago, she would have fought with me. She would have felt invalidated. She would have felt defensive. She would have felt annoyed. Because of the work that we are doing, she was doing the dishes and she got curious with herself and was like, why am I so irritated? And then it brought forward what was actually happening around the dating apps and then what she was making that mean about herself and her ability to create her life. And she started to tend to all of these really unconscious things that she never would have gotten to had she not been able to soften her nervous system, soften her heart, soften her defenses, her ego, her inner child, to attune to her inner child, get to a place where she could get curious with herself. And because she got curious with herself, she brought forth all of this stuff that was living inside that she wanted to just lie to herself and say, oh, it's because work was really busy and I'm annoyed that I don't have enough time to do the things that I want to do. No, that wasn't it. She had a lot of feelings about what was happening for her with the dating apps, but that was unconscious. And so she had to be able to bring it into consciousness. And again, 6 months ago, she never would have been able to do that. She's only able to do that because of the work that we have done together to help her create a nervous system that feels like it's dripping in gold, attune to her inner child, process through her trauma, and come to a state of neutrality where she's able to get curious with herself, and not only that, but able to look at the unconscious ways she's relating to the world. This will literally set you free. Like, I can't express how important this is. You don't know how many unconscious things you're carrying into your life, and you actually don't know how to look at them. And you're probably going to be like, well, don't fucking tell me what the fuck I know, Yarrow. I'm telling you, most people don't. They don't know how to look at this stuff because we make it mean something about us. We make it mean something about us if we don't know, right? We get then shame comes up and we're like, oh, we like have all this shame about it. Like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, or, this, that, or the other. Like, we go into a shame spiral rather than being able to go, oh, yeah, I actually didn't know that. That was unconscious to me. I can see that now, which is my client's favorite thing to say. And now I was so proud of her last night because I was like, oh, you saw it on your own. That's so exciting. She didn't used to be able to. And then I had an I can see that now moment with the person who I had the situation with. Like, she explained her perception to me and how she perceived where I was coming from, how I perceived where she was coming from, and I was like, "Oh, I could see that now." But when we don't know how to soften enough, and our egos, we don't have a strong enough ego strength, which means a strong enough sense of self, then we're just going to be reactive with people. And when we're reactive with people, we're just creating more combative energy. We're just creating more disconnection. We're creating more fear, more scarcity, more contraction, more defensiveness. Our triggers are running the show. Our inner child is running the show. And then we're creating lives through our defenses and our protectors, which could be obsessing, ruminating, shopping, judging, drinking, having promiscuous sex that doesn't feel good, dating, porn, whatever it might be, obsessing, ruminating, overthinking, seeking external validation, making up sicknesses. I wrote a post this morning for Instagram that said my client used to think she had SAD, really, she just hated her life. SAD meaning seasonal affective disorder. She did not have that. And we will create lives based upon those defenses because we don't know how to do what I'm explaining to you to do so that you can create your life based upon beauty and connection and love and joy and curiosity and openness. And so then we are in this political environment in especially the United States, but really the world, where no one can hold nuance, everyone's combative towards each other, everyone's reactionary, and we're in this place of like, what is going on and why can't we actually come to connection? Why can't we connect from our hearts? And this is one of the things that I will often say if I'm with someone. I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation until we can connect to our hearts. because there's too much defensiveness, there's too much combativeness, like there's too much, like we're coming from a protective place rather than an open and connected place, and that's not going to be helpful for anyone. And again, that takes a lot of nervous system safety, and it takes the willingness to be like, I don't need to be right, because there's a lot of unconscious energy about needing to be right. And because of that, you will then shame yourself if you quote unquote don't know. We make it mean something if we don't know everything about ourselves. You're not going to. Uncovering and becoming who you are meant to be is a lifelong journey, and it happens in iterations. It's an evolution, it's an expansion, and it's meant to be exciting and joyful and connected and free. But we've not made it that because we've become so rigidly attached to it needs to be a certain way. I need it to be this way, because if it's not this way, I'm going to feel shame, and then I'm going to go into a spiral, and then I'm going to feel like I'm wrong. And when you have shame, when you feel like you're wrong, you feel like I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe and I'm going to get killed. And then you feel like I have to know, because if I don't know, then I'm going to feel shame, and if I feel shame, then I'm going to die. It's not conscious, it's not rational. It's one of those unconscious visceral feelings in the body, because once upon a time, if you did something that was quote unquote wrong, you would get killed. And so here we are, where it's wired into our nervous systems, I'm gonna die if I do the wrong thing. Or even like being criticized, judged, or not accepted can feel like death in our bodies. It feels like we're dying. And so we want to avoid that. And so we want to avoid not knowing. And then we avoid getting curious around our unconscious, which then just keeps us stuck. And then we continue to perpetuate these unconscious cycles that we're not aware of, because we don't feel safe enough in our bodies, in our nervous systems, to get curious, to bring the unconscious into consciousness. And so when you're working with this, you want to create a nervous system that feels like it's dripping in gold. Attune to your inner child, process the trauma coded within it, create personal power and emotional intelligence to process your triggers so you can come from a neutral space and feel safe to have an open heart and get curious and be open and willing to see the potential unconscious energy that might be projected onto a situation, which often you will need a mentor, a healer, a therapist, a coach, someone to mirror it back to you. Be careful who that is, because their energetic vibration needs to be a clean mirror, which a lot of people don't have a clean mirror. You need a clean mirror. And then as you start to tend to this in a relationship with someone else, like with my client, you will eventually learn how to do this yourself. And then it will be really exciting. So, like with my client last night, I just celebrated with her. I said yes to everything you said. And I'm so proud of you that you got there on your own, because that is the goal, to be able to bring the unconscious into consciousness. And it doesn't mean that it won't ever happen with someone else. We won't ever need someone else to help us, because that's the nature of being human. We are meant to be in relationship together, and we're going to mirror each other, and we're going to bring the unconscious into consciousness just through relationship with each other. And sometimes we need a guide to help us with that system until it becomes second nature to us. And when you can bring your unconscious into consciousness, it literally sets you free. And this is what we will be doing in my 8-week program, The Composer. We start on October 23rd. It is 8 weeks. You have live calls once a week. You have a Telegram channel where we will process through 4 days a week through voice notes. We have a whole program. You have daily somatic practices to help you attune to this frequency, the frequency of you, the vibration of you, to being able to actually bring the unconscious into consciousness so you can create the most beautiful symphony in your life, which will ask you to embody pleasure and leadership and to rewire your DNA at a cellular level. And it is so freaking cool to witness it happening. And this is what we do in the ROK world. So if this is interesting to you, send me a DM on Instagram, comment below. I would absolutely love to guide you through this process. And I hope you have a beautiful day.